It's not that Judge Young, a senior judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, just wrote a 161-page scathing rebuke of the Trump administration and their attack on the First Amendment. It's how he did it. He did it as a 161-page response to an anonymous postcard that was dropped off at his office, where he reproduced the postcard at the top above the caption of the case. So you knew that this entirety of his order was a response. And then he ended the 161 pages with a "how do you like them apples" in his type of response. And in it, in the middle of it, he reminded us of what's at risk when Donald Trump tries to crush First Amendment expression, especially in the wake of Charlie Kirk. I'm sure that and Donald Trump's response to try to crush dissent was ringing in the ears of Judge Young when he wrote this decision. And this was on his mind on almost the last page, the penultimate page of the order. Quoting Ronald Reagan, who was his patron, who put him on the federal bench, "Freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation, for it comes only once to a people." And that is the animating principle. Not only do we have the response to the postcard, but the other rhetorical flourish is that there's an entire section which has nothing to do with what the judge just ruled, in which he found, after a full evidentiary hearing in dozens of examples, the Trump administration weaponized immigration law to go after permanent legal status residents, graduate students and professors on college campuses all around America, because they didn't like their First Amendment freedom of speech. They didn't like what they were saying, the content, the viewpoint of what they were saying when they were making commentary about the Israel-Hamas conflict. They didn't like which side of the V these speakers were on, whether professors or students. And so they started to deport them, and they started to crush them, creating a chilling effect, making other professors and other permanent residents go into hiding. That's exactly what you're not allowed to do. Or as the judge reminded everyone, that carved into the New Hampshire granite of the courthouse in Massachusetts in which he sat were the words of the First Amendment: "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." And no law means no law. Not, well, it's a law, but it's not a law. But if you're not a legal status or you're not a U.S. citizen, then you don't get the benefit of the First Amendment. That's not what that says. It doesn't depend on the person speaking and their legal immigration status. It has to do with the government being prevented from passing a law. Let's start with the postcard. You're here on Legal AF on Wednesday morning. I welcome you. I thank you. This is important. We're holding on to freedom in our bare hands. Is this a generation where it's lost? Not on my watch, not on yours. Hit the free subscribe button, become a member of Legal AF. All right, let's go to the postcard, which we didn't know that Judge Young got. Now, Judge Young is very interesting. Republican appointee in his 80s. This is the revenge of the senior status judges, as I like to say. Judge Breyer in San Francisco, this judge, Judge Royce Lampert. There's a lot of senior status judges that are hanging on because they want to ride it out through this Trump administration because they think there's a valuable service that they can perform given their experience. And he's also tussled with the Supreme Court recently. Supreme Court chastised Judge Young, said he was being defiant because he didn't apply in a case about funding. He didn't apply one of their one-paragraph emergency shadow docket orders about funding. Oh, you didn't follow it. Judge Young said, I was supposed to follow the paragraph about a different department when you didn't even take the time or the courtesy to put it and reduce it to an opinion that the lower courts could follow. I wasn't being defiant. I was confused, effectively. Well, they thought he was being defiant then. Wait till they get a load of this order. I love it. Here we go. Somebody wrote on June 19th, apparently from Philadelphia, a postcard addressed to Judge Young that said, with a weird date, 19/2025, whatever that means. Trump has pardons and tanks. What do you have? To which the judge starts his opinion as a response to the postcard. Dear Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Anonymous, alone I have nothing but my sense of duty. Together, we the people of the United States, you and me, have our magnificent Constitution. Here's how that works out in a specific case. See below, effectively. And then he writes his opinion, crushing the Trump administration for their illegal, unconstitutional, chilling efforts against and making all those findings. Now, this was only findings. He's not yet in rulings of law. He's not ready to come up with the remedy. But he did take time out at the very end to go after the Trump administration. Let me read you to that, because this will go down in history, I believe, as one of the most poignant and eloquent resistance orders of this Trump time. Here's what he said about that. He calls it justice in the Trump era. What now? And at one point, he actually quotes his wife. I'm talking about Judge Young quotes his own wife. And I love that, in which he says on page 150, President Donald J. Trump, he seems to be winning. He ignores everything and he keeps bullying ahead. Half admiring, half quizzical, a very wise woman, my wife, made this comment about our 47th president in an entirely different context. He says, I won't discuss pending matters with anyone outside our chambers. So this was a quote she made about another matter. I quote it here because it so perfectly captures the public persona of President Trump, especially as it pertains to the issues presented in this case. He seems to be winning. Triumphalism is the very essence of the Trump brand. Often this is naught but hollow bragging. My perfect administration, wearing a red baseball cap in the Oval Office with Trump was right about everything, or most recently, depicting himself as an officer in the 1st Cavalry Division. Unfortunately, this tends to obscure the very real and sweeping changes President Trump has wrought in his first year in office. He ignores everything. This is indubitably true. The Constitution, our civil laws, regulations, mores, customs, practices, courtesies, all of it the president simply ignores. He ignores it all when it takes it into his head to act. A broad swath of our people find this refreshing in what they may feel is an over-regulated society. After all, lawyers seem to have a penchant for telling you what you can't do. President Trump simply ignores them. This is not to suggest that he's entirely lawless. He is not. Now that he is our duly elected president after a full and fair election, he not only enjoys broad immunity from personal liability, he is prepared to deploy all the resources of the nation against obstruction. Daunting prospect, isn't it? Small wonder, then, that our bastions of the independent, unbiased free speech, those entities we once thought unassailable, have proven all too often to have only Quaker guns, meaning they don't shoot. Behold President Trump's successes in limiting free speech. Law firms cower. Institutional leaders in higher education meekly appease the president. We have a new report that Harvard, by the way, is about to settle for $500 million right in the jurisdiction of Judge Young. Institutional leaders in higher education meekly appease. Media outlets from huge conglomerates to small niche magazines mind the bottom line rather than the ethics of journalism. And he keeps bullying on, the judge says. He goes through retribution and the attacks on the law firms, the higher education, and the media. And all of it is all of these entities are normally a firewall or a bulwark of our right to free speech. He then says, I need to come up with a remedy, and I will. But he wants us to be left with these thoughts about freedom being a fragile thing, and that every generation has a responsibility to guard it or it will be lost. He then ended the response to the postcard on the final page. We'll put it up on the screen, 161. Here's his response under his signature, official signature of William G. Young, Judge of the United States. He signed it. This is again to the writer of the postcard, typed, I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for writing. By the way, I posted the whole 161 pages on Legal AF Substack for you to read. Thanks for writing. It shows you care. You should. Sincerely and respectfully, Bill Young. P.S. The next time you're in Boston, because the postcard said Philadelphia, stop in at the courthouse and watch your fellow citizens sitting as jurors reach out for justice. It is here and in courthouses just like this one, both state and federal, spread throughout our land, that our Constitution is most vibrantly alive. For it is well said that where a jury sits, there burns the lamp of liberty. I think we'll end it at that. And we'll see what Judge Young does next. And if the Supreme Court thought that Judge Young was being, quote unquote, defiant before, then they better read cover to cover this, which is addressed to history, addressed to the Trump administration, addressed to you and me, and addressed to the United States Supreme Court. Let's say it's a love letter to the Constitution and a response to that postcard. I'm Michael Popak. Thanks for being here. Hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack, become a member, and get a copy and read for yourself Judge Young's immortal words. I'm Michael Popak. You're on Legal AF YouTube channel. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.